Hi, I'm Daniel, and today I'm doing something that hopefully doesn't attract a bunch of commenters that hate immigrants. Don't know why that's going on, but anyway, today we're gonna play some language guesser. Well, I am. You're not. You're gonna watch me do it, or you don't have to. Um, okay, let's go. So we're gonna listen to a language, and I'm gonna try to see what it is. And here's the twist. There is a twist. If I do not get it right, I will have to learn one fact about that language. Okay, let's go.
Я всю вселенную узрел, когда тебя я наплежь вздел. Кастильской омочен росою, отверзлись хуя очеса, открылись света чудеса.
So one thing I noticed when I was doing a dry run for this is I think everything's Russian. Let's try that one more time.
Я всю вселенную узрел, когда тебя я наплежь вздел. Кастильской омочен росою, отверзлись хуя очеса, открылись света чудеса.
I hear a lot of those like kind of palatal things, like all that. I sounds Russian to me, but that's just saying it could easily be a similar language. Da. Okay, cool. I got that one. So I don't need to learn a fact about Russian. Let's go.
عبد العزيز بن متعب بن رشيد وانسحب جيشه إلى حائل وأعلن انتصار الملك عبد العزيز على ألد أعدائه وأكثرهم خطورة. في الفترة التي عقبت مقتل بن رشيد لم تتمدد المملكة كثيرا، وكان تحديد حدود المملكة يقوم على حسب القبائل الموالية للمملكة، وانشغل الرشيد في تلك الفترة.
That's easy because he literally said Abdulaziz to start. That's clearly Arabic. Right? Yes. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Is this easy? Is this easier than I remember it being?
E fanno fatica a interiorizzare questa figura perché non rientra nella loro dimensione. Però devono incominciare a conoscere. C'è anche il male, dice Freud. Smettiamo di raccontare le favole di Natale, dice lui.
One more time. Let me see. Because that's the thing. Is it... Well, okay. I know enough Spanish to tell it's Spanish or a related language, but why does is it Portuguese, or does he just sound... Is he just saying stuff a little Portuguese?
E fanno fatica a interiorizzare questa figura perché non rientra nella loro dimensione. Però devono incominciare a conoscere. C'è anche il male, dice Freud. Smettiamo di raccontare le favole di Natale, dice lui.
Because Portuguese has more of an accent, right? Because Portuguese almost sounds Russian to me. When I did the dry run, I thought Portuguese was Russian. That's Italian. Okay. My bad. I think that I felt like... Because I didn't feel like it was Spanish, necessarily. I felt like I would probably understand a little bit more of it, but I'm not even that good at Spanish, so... I wouldn't assume that. I wish instead of distance, they would do like distance of language family. Like if it was Russian, but you guessed another Slavic language, then that would be close. Cause that's the thing. That's the thing too, because the weird way they do it with countries. If I would have guessed Mexico, I would have gotten less points, right? The fact that I guessed Spain, cause I thought it could have been Italian. I didn't say it because I didn't want to say all three. Whatever. Whatever. But yeah, okay. I think that I have an idea that with Italian, so let me write that down. Italian. Let me write down. I need to get a fact about Italian in here. So Because I think that, you know, you expect that Italian is going to have a little bit up and down and the rhythm and more like this, you know, so. But I guess not. I guess it's just a regular language that sounds like people talk.
但是呢，我也想请英方的官员呢仔细考虑一下，在英国对香港进行殖民统治期间，香港居民有上街游行的自由吗？
Clearly a total language. I'm not going to say outright that it's Mandarin, but it's Chinese language, correct? Right, Mandarin Chinese, yes. Okay. That's, again, because it's a country, if it's Cantonese, then I would still get points. But yeah, that was an easy one too.
John teria encontrado com seu assassino, Mark Chapman, horas antes, quando Mark levou seu disco Double Fantasy para John Lennon autografar.
Why did I change my mind on that? Am I overthinking this? Or is this just French?
John teria encontrado com seu assassino, Mark Chapman, horas antes, quando Mark levou seu disco Double Fantasy para John Lennon autografar.
Hold on, one more time.
John teria encontrado com seu assassino, Mark Chapman, horas antes, quando Mark levou seu disco Double Fantasy para John Lennon autografar.
It's Portuguese, right? Well, let me do it in Portugal, so if it is French, I still get points from it. Okay. Because I was like, wait, no, that's Portuguese. I was like, well, it's French. Then I'm like, wait, no. It almost sounds a little Slavic. And I'm like, oh, it sounds Slavic, so it's probably Portuguese. And then I was listening for the French R, and it didn't have the French. It was a it wasn't that. It was further forward in the mouse, so. Should I sign up? Would this be a better video if I sign up? Okay, let me sign up off camera. While I'm signing up for that, how about you sign up for my other channel? If you like seeing me play games, Danger Dan 2, spelled T-O-O, is just a bunch of me playing around. Come join me. Alright, I've signed up. Let me make sure it's not, okay, it doesn't like display my email address or anything now. Let's see.
En in kent aan de laag bij Gedeober, laag dober, kroge de laborio, me pinoke dagen, nikke de schuur, nikke bij de schuur ganta. En in kent aan de laag bij Gedeober, laag dober, kroge de laborio, me pinoke dagen, nikke de schuur, nikke bij de schuur ganta.
That's just that French R, right? That isn't like a Semitic language or something, is it? So that's wrong, because I was trying to say it was French. I do not believe I deserve 100 points for that, because I was saying it was French to you. But if we go back to it, it didn't necessarily sound like the words of French.
En in kent aan de laag bij Gedeober, laag dober, kroge de laborio, me pinoke dagen, nikke de schuur, nikke bij de schuur ganta.
Okay, I can definitely see that as like, you know, you're speaking a Celtic language in a French accent, which I guess that's probably what it sounds like. Really, that's cool. I was able to guess, you know, Sprachbundeffekt. Yippee for me, I guess.
Жаңа жылдан бастап облыстағы 16 мың көпбалалы отбасына мемлекет тарапынан табыс көзіне қарамастан қолдау көрсетіледі. Нақтырақ айтсақ, 4 бала тәрбиелеп отырған отбасы 42 мың, 5 баласы барлар 52 мың теңге көлемінде жәрдемақы алатын болады. Жаңа жылдан бастап облыстағы 16 мың көпбалалы отбасына мемлекет тарапынан табыс көзіне қарамастан қолдау көрсетіледі. Нақтырақ айтсақ, 4 бала тәрбиелеп отырған отбасы 42 мың, 5 баласы барлар 52 мың теңге көлемінде жәрдемақы алатын болады.
Okay. Okay. I'll count Breton as one that I got wrong too, by the way. Kazakh. Okay. Let's see.
Hedu Pidiyoti Hedu Tabyutakana Damananda Damudana Nizarubana Hedu Pisina Pisiyo.
So I can tell by the intonation this is like, I know the way that they'll read a lot of like prayers and like Hindu prayers and stuff like that. What? Burmese. I was close-ish. But definitely no cigar. Now my intuition, I had, I was close for a reason. That's a better guess than the Breton one too. Because I've well, I haven't learned French that much, but I spent a little bit of time learning French when I was younger, so that's slightly more embarrassing. Let's see.
Ja, want u noemde het net al, dit heeft zelfs de kranten in Israël, in Amerika gehaald. Krijgt u veel steun vanuit het buitenland ook hiervoor? Om die synagoge over te kopen, het hele ophef?
It's Danish, right?
Ja, want u noemde het net al, dit heeft zelfs de kranten in Israël, in Amerika gehaald. Krijgt u veel steun vanuit het buitenland ook hiervoor? Om die synagoge over te kopen, het hele ophef?
Right. It's gotta be. It's not just German, is it? That's Dutch. Well, there's something so uncanny valley about the languages that you can you just based on knowing English, you can hear some words. Nah, that's... I don't know, it sounded like a little bit of the, what is it, the Gordon, whatever. Whatever it is that the Danish has. Okay. Well, the average American doesn't know the difference anyway, so I'm not an idiot.
Și pur și simplu flutură tonfa aia în mână, obiectul contundent în mână. Și mă amenință, mă ajut, dar nu vine către mine, nu pornește către mine, atacul nu este material, da? Nu se produce materialitatea atacului. Drept urmare, eu nu pot face uz de armă împotriva lui. Este simplu.
Right? This is Portuguese, right? Romance language with Slavic characteristics. Okay. Got Romanian. And I wrote down Dutch too, just now. Okay. Adding up the things I gotta learn. Did you know that Italians don't just have one language? Like many places in the world, Italy is home to several regional languages. Whether you call them dialects or separate languages is a separate philosophical linguistic debate that goes beyond the scope of this video, which is emulating the tone of a TikTok fun fact video. The current dialect of Italy resembles the Florentine dialect of Tuscan, due to the relatively central location of Tuscany and the cultural significance of Florence, specifically with the writings of Dante, whose Divine Comedy remains perhaps the cornerstone of Italian literature. As the influence of Latin recedes to the confines of religion and academia, the printing press allowed for the circulation of standardized written language, and the rise of the nation-state leading up to the eventual unification of Italy. The language we now know as Italian ended up taking hold of the newly formed country. However, while the regional varieties are still declining in popularity, there are still populations that speak them, often in addition to the national language. Okay, the voice is annoying. The voice is annoying. I'm not doing the voice anymore. Similar to Italy, France has multiple regional languages, although a key difference is that a couple of the major ones are actually quite different from French, not existing on the Latin-based dialect continuum that Portuguese, Spanish, Catalan, French, and Italian are all part of. While a notable example is Basque, which isn't even an Indo-European language at all, the one I'm talking about here is Breton. In contrast with Basque, which has a larger and more recognized community in Spain, Breton exists only in northwestern France and has long been ignored by the staunchly francophone government, which only has given limited gestures of recognition in recent times. Breton is an Indo-European language, but more distantly related to the Romance languages, being a Celtic language instead, despite the fact that it is on the European continent, it is more closely related to the insular Celtic languages spoken in Britain and Ireland than it is now to the extinct continental Celtic languages. And specifically, the closest relatives to Breton are Welsh and Cornish, making it part of the Brittonic Celtic languages as opposed to the Goidelic of Irish, Manx, and Scottish Gaelic. Breton lacks the level of recognition and widely spoken nature of Welsh, which rivals English in some parts of Wales, but isn't in such a dire state as Cornish, which over the past few decades has been revived from literal extinction. Breton has about 210,000 speakers, which is more than many other endangered languages, but also less than 10 counties in the U.S. state of Georgia, which I am currently sitting on top of. Breton lexically is indeed heavily influenced by French. According to some analyses, about 40% of its vocabulary derives from the French language, which explains why I thought it was French. I really just heard the R, that's really all it was. Breton, it seems, has a rather interesting system of grammatical number. To shamelessly steal examples from Wikipedia of all places, the collective logod for mice is logoden in the singulative, in other words, a single mouse. This can have semantic differences as well. Pesk is a fish, pesked is in the plural, and peskeden is a singular fish out of a group. I probably pronounced those wrong, but the point is the examples. There is also two different plural words that mean different things. For example, there's a word for multiple parks and a word for multiple different types of parks, which is a tremendous morpho-semantic idea to explore for any keen conlaters watching. I spent way too long on Breton. Kazakh is a Turkic language and has features of Turkic languages such as vowel harmony and agglutination. Being in Central Asia, it's often ignored, although it's at the crossroads of many different cultures in the world's largest continent, so we probably shouldn't be ignoring Central Asia. It has many loanwords from Persian and Arabic due to contact with their southern and southwestern neighbors, but also a close connection to Russian, as both languages are spoken by many counts over 80% of the people of Kazakhstan, which is obviously a former Soviet country. Perhaps moving away from those connections, however, Kazakh is in the process of transitioning into the Latin alphabet instead of Cyrillic. As a last fun fact, and to round out their close relations with various interesting neighbors myself and likely you know more about, the country with the second most Kazakh people is China, having over 1 million of them. And now you know. Speaking of China, a distant relative of Chinese languages is the languages we often call in English Burmese, spoken in the country of Myanmar, as well as certain parts of neighboring countries such as a couple states of northern India and some tribes in Bangladesh. While many East Asian languages are known for being rather isolating with regards to word formation, and Burmese is indeed tonal and often monosyllabic, such as Mandarin, Burmese is a case-marking system and marks verbs for things like tense and aspect, making it somewhat unique if you're only familiar with some of the more widely spoken languages that often are in one end or another of that spectrum, or combines them in a different way. Dutch is a language I should probably be careful about, since it's such an irrelevant language that most of its speakers just learn English anyway. Turned out the ship has sailed on being careful as I began my piece on the language by calling it irrelevant. Whatever. Speaking of ship sailing, this is how the Dutch language has actually garnered a wide influence across the globe. If I criticize the abhorrent practices of colonialism, I will be insulted by someone who unironically uses kek in 2025. Ooh. So I would be better off talking about Dutch influence in a more neutral variety. Such as its usage either directly or as a second language of many Caribbean nations, or its influence in the Afrikaans language spoken in parts of South Africa and Namibia. But perhaps what's most interesting of all is that there are around 10,000 words in Indonesian that are of Dutch origin, which is an interesting fact and shows how wide-reaching the effects of colonialism are, even in places like Indonesia, where actually speaking Dutch is quite uncommon. It's uncommon to speak Dutch in most places. Romanian is an interesting language to begin with, being that it is a Romance language in Eastern Europe, so it has influences from multiple branches of the Indo-European family tree, similar to English in that regard. While it isn't as widely spoken as Spanish, French, Portuguese, or even the aforementioned Italian, Romanian is the primary language of both Romania and Moldova. So you can argue that it makes it the smallest of the large Romance languages, if that makes any sense. In Moldova nowadays, the language is still officially known as Romanian, despite previously being known as Moldovan in typical European fashion of calling two very similar dialects different languages if they happen to be across borders. Although in the endlessly fascinating place of Transnistria, an unrecognized autonomous republic which is officially a part of Moldova, it's still called Moldovan. You know, that reminds me of back when I was running a pizza shop in Brooklyn and it got closed down. So the health inspector came. The health inspector was like, "Hey, you speak Romanian?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't speak Romanian." And he was like, "Well, look at that pizza. There's mold over it." Moldova. Hi. I'm Daniel. But you know me as the character Daniel on the YouTube channel Danger Dan. I would like to apologize for the recent joke made. I would like to apologize for offending anyone, specifically anyone with a sense of humor. I would like to say this won't happen again, but I know that there have been many lapses in my judgment, and this is probably not the last time my judgment will lapse in such a way. I have very bad judgment. I have tried so hard to get on jury duty, and they know that I would not do good at it. They can tell. But you can clock that. Fast and sense alone. Word choices, greeting choices. When I said sup Crody to the judge. How Kendrick was making fun of Drake, The judge thought that was rather immature and unprofessional. Especially because I was at his wedding. This had nothing to do with jury duty. This guy just knew me from years before. I crashed at his wedding. Why would it be from years before? It doesn't make it. Why would it be from years before if I'm referencing something that happened in 2024? It's so bad. The little ramble I was going on to this. See, this is why the woke can't do comedy. Although in the endlessly flat... second edit, 2 edits, whatever.